All right. So today's the Friday, and we will go into the Q&A. Now tonight there's not many questions. There's only 3 questions, and if you have any questions, you can put it on the chat, or if you want, you may put a raise hand. Then we will unmute you. Also can. Yeah? All right. Let us carry on. Hold on. Okay, share the screen. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Okay. Hey. Hold on. Stop the sharing again. Okay. All right. Can you all see right now? Okay, yeah? Good. I got to remove this thing. Okay. I'll put it below. All right. Bhante, during sitting meditation, the lips become tightened and nose pull up. I just being aware of it. As the lips tightened stronger, like being glued together, I couldn't move even a bit. The mind knew it can't control. Then the tears came out. I just aware of them and noted them tightened, tears, cool. Later they disappeared. Then breath became faster and felt gaps. Lips started to become tighter and stronger than before, like magnet being struck and being stuck. The mind accepted and aware of them. The lips changed the shape. It happened until the chin was pushed up, then tightness on the lips disappeared. I don't know how to describe it, but it was very interesting. Bhante, I sincerely thank you for the teaching and guidance. All right. Now here, okay, since it's not a question, it's just a description. Anyway, here when we are noticing all these things, a lot of times many of yogis, when they are not taught to just stay there, pay attention as it is, whether it is being tight or tears or cool or pulling or stretching, and a lot of times during the sitting, especially, the aspect of the dukkha, arises and it comes out. The dukkha is not only the pain in the buttock or pain in the knees only, when we call that dukkha. It comes in different ways. For example, when the lips tighten and you feel unpleasantness, that is also a kind of experience of dukkha. And the tears arises and the breath is all gasping and so on. That is also an expression of dukkha in its own way. Yeah. So here in this time, you all have to pay attention as they really are. A lot of times, yogi, when these things happen, they try to undo them on your own. For example, when your lips become tight, then you all just want to shake it and then try to loosen it. That is not the way of vipassana. So the way of vipassana, if it's tight, you watch it. It becomes tighter, you watch it. So the breath, even sometimes you felt that it's gaps, you watch it. Sometimes even the breath feels like you can't even feel the breath at all, as if like there's no breathing at all. Even then also, don't be fearful, just aware of them. Because sometimes when the concentration picks up, it do all kinds of things, and you may think of it as something wrong with your practice. But this is exactly what the Vipassana is trying to show you, in many different ways. So you're going to experience, if you are sincerely practicing, you're going to experience many different sensations, and especially, and it's connected with the unpleasant things, unpleasant, then there's a lot of experience coming out. It makes you difficult to meditate. But anyway, since over here, you can able to notice it, you can able to take note of those things, then perfect. Just keep it going. More and more to see. Good. Okay. All right. Okay. Few minutes only. We go to the second one. We got only 3 questions tonight, actually. All right, never mind. Bhante, how do we practice mindfulness during chanting? Mentally, quietly, or verbally? Do we just hear the sounds of the syllables or words, or we are also told to understand the meaning of the chants or sutta to be effective? In that case, we are also thinking. Please explain. All right. Now, during the chanting, in the process of chanting, what is good that we learn to understand the sutta, the meaning of the sutta, which is important also. Second is that we also need to have able to remember as much as you can. Okay. Then also, in a certain way, number 3, you have to have a proper pronunciation. Also is good. Because if sometimes in the Pali, if there's the pronunciation is out a little bit, it can be a different thing. Also, of course, the next one is you must also have a lot of faith in the teachings of the Buddha, and also that particular chanting. You must have faith in the chanting. For example, the faith here is that, for example, if you chant, let's say, the Bojjhanga Sutta, and usually, traditionally, when we chant the Bojjhanga Sutta, the 7 factors of enlightenment, when we chant those things, then we are taught that the Bojjhanga Sutta can help the sick one to able to recover and free from the sickness, because in the suttas, the Buddha or the disciples of the Buddha use this Bojjhanga Sutta to help other monks, or even they chant for the Buddha too. Then the Buddha recover, or other monks also recover. So with that, we traditionally bring it down, and we use this Bojjhanga Sutta for, in a way, the purpose of helping to elevate the suffering of, or the sickness, or the ill health. So here you must have some degree of faith. You've got to have some degree of faith that this chanting is going to have certain effect on the person. But you got to be careful. Don't put your bar too high. If the person cannot overcome the sickness, then some people may think that, oh, this chanting is not good, not this one. So then that means you put your bar too high, you put your expectation too high. So you got to lower the expectation. When we chant, we wish the person to be free from that sickness, but finally it's again depending on the person. You must have also understanding, and here is the faculty of, not faculty, but in a way, is a faith and wisdom in the sense that they have to go together. Now here the understanding is good, that you understand what you chanted. But deeper than that, you need certain degree of practice in order to understand the words of the Buddha. Now take again the Bojjhanga Suttas. For it to be effective, in a certain way, you have to know exactly what is mindfulness, which is the first aspect of the Bojjhanga, of the first factor of the Bojjhanga. Then the next factor is the Dhamma investigation, which is the wisdom factor. Then you must exactly know what is the wisdom factor. Not just by chanting, but truly understood it because you have experienced it in your actual meditation, or the tranquility, or the effort, or the concentration, or the equanimity, or the piti, all the seven, not in sequence, but all the seven is there. So you've got to have certain degree of understanding that these are the qualities. These are the quality. Also, now if the person who is sick, okay, now let's say the person who is sick, and if the person who is sick and he has practiced before, good practice before, and when this chanting of these 7 factors of enlightenment is being chanted, the moment you tell him about sati, investigation, then the sick person, the mind is directed to listening and to understand, and also because of he has the background of mental development, then his mind can able to pull up the mindfulness. At least can able to stir up some mindfulness, can stir up some tranquility, can stir up some concentration because of his past practice. So even the Buddha needs to be chanted, because sometimes when the body is sick, the mind also is blurred. And the mind is blurred, the mind is not able to arouse the clarity. So with the chanting, and because of you familiar with the practice, then that type of direction of the mind, and because of the words and the direction of the person, of the sick person, is being directed to hearing those words, then they can able to overcome the sickness. It's not because of the chanting is got a special power and so on. It's also because of the person who is sick can able to understand exactly what has been chanted. That is also, in a way, it comes with understanding of both sides. So if the other person, when you chant and then the other person is not able to understand, then does not matter. It does not really matter. I mean, you just do your part. You just do your part. It will be better if the other party can able to understand you. So. So you need to have that wisdom. You need to have that faith. So sometimes with certain chanting is to overcome certain degree of fear. Certain sometimes the Buddha says there are beings who come and really disturb us and so on. And the Buddha gave us a number of chant, and then we can, when we chant it with confidence, with faith, with understanding too, and then as if like this type of fear can be overcome. Sometimes all you need to do is overcome the fear. Then those beings has no power over you. They can no power over you because you have faith in the chanting. But if you do not have faith in the chanting, then it's going to be a bit difficult. So when you have faith in the chanting and you understand what you chanted, then because of that faith, it overcomes the fear. When the fear is over, whether the beings are there or not there, it doesn't matter anymore, isn't it? It doesn't, it has no, it doesn't, I mean, they are there only. No? It's because a lot of times we are fearful, then we think of all kinds of wrong things. So you must have a lot of faith. You must have a lot of fear. Whether you can be mindful of it or not, perhaps sometimes mindfulness is just that you are just being aware roughly only. Mindfulness is more, I would say, it's not at the forefront. Mindfulness is more at the background because it's still something wholesome. You are thinking about the words and you are recollecting about the meaning and you have faith in the chanting, and then those things becomes at the forefront. Mindfulness step at the behind it. So sometimes here when we chant these things, when we have certain degree of understanding, certain degree of faith, then it can work wonders. It can work wonders. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say there's going to be miracle, I wouldn't say it's going to be a miracle, but then sometimes wonders can happen. At one time, I told you the story. I think I spoken about this thing before. Reverend Jyotinanda and I, at one time, some years back, we were invited to do a chanting for a devotee's father who is sick and cannot wake up or like in a coma for a few days. Yeah? So two of us, went for the chanting, chant. And then the next day, the father woke up, and then he was so happy, the devotee was so happy, and then he thanked us, Then because of that, other devotees came to know about it, or he or the devotee told to another friend, and they came to know about it. And then they started to invite us again to go and chant again, because the other person, the other devotees, parents or sibling is also in a state of coma, which is in the hospital. So we were invited to go there to do the chanting. Hopefully this thing, they hope that the person can wake up from the coma. So, but then after that, whether they wake up from the coma, we do not know, because we don't want to go into that area. We go into that area, after that become too popular in all these things, Sayadaw, and then all the time people invite you for chanting for some sort of miracle, so we're involved in that too much. But once in a while, of course, we attended death chanting, and people who sick once in a while, not all the time. We are not in that area. But there are monks who are in those areas. There are monks who are really in those areas. There are places that I went to, like in Thailand. Sometimes in Thailand, certain monastery, they have a cremation ground also. Not like here. Here we are cremation ground is you have to go to a crematorium to do the whole the burning. But in Thailand, the cremation can be done in a certain monastery, not all monastery, but a certain monastery. And a certain monastery, they also provide monks to do all this chanting. Then the monks are very professional because they deal with this thing a lot. Even right now, it's even more terrible with so many deaths, especially like also in Thailand. There's also no time, a lot of time is being spent into all these things. So I'm not in that area. I don't want to go in those areas. So anyway, we use this chanting. We use this chanting with understanding, with faith, with confidence, with remembering, with a proper pronunciation, and it can help us, and it can help a certain situation, or it may help others also. But again, you don't put your expectation too high. Here, the chanting, sometimes also there are yogis. Sometimes they start off, before they start off with a certain meditation, they want to chant because the chanting helps to calm them, which is also true for some yogis. It is not for me. Yeah? The more I chant, the more the mind goes into a lot of thinking. So usually I avoid chanting when it comes into meditation. But for some yogis, it's perfectly all right. Now, the thing is that when you want to do the chanting, during in the meditation, or especially in the retreat, in the retreat, it would be advisable to put all these things aside as best as possible. But at home, like right now, when you do this kind of chanting, now, do it for a while until your mind can able to stay with the chanting. And your mind is not distracted about tomorrow, about next day, and so on. It can able to stay with the chanting. And then with that, then try not to go too much already. With that, when your mind able to calm down with the chanting, then after that, when that particular chanting finish, then let it go, then go into the meditation. Then with that calmness, with that clarity, bring it over to the meditation, whichever that you are doing, in breath, out breath, rising, falling, metta, and it can be very helpful. Yeah? Those things can be very helpful. Here the chanting can be used as a supportive for your mental development rather than in itself, because in itself the mindfulness is more of a background, Okay. Just make sure that all this chanting, it's just have to be. You have to be. What do you call that? You got to be wise. What I'm trying to say is that you have to be wise, because in the world, when you go out there, when you move around from places to places, there are people who are very involved in this chanting, and they are over attached to the chanting, and they thought that every chanting can give you miracles. In the fact that sometimes there are those who, if you hear, for example, if you hear my chanting, then you'll be enlightened already. If you hear the chanting, you'll be fully protected already. Protected in the sense that you don't have to have all these things. And some people, they what they call that, tattoo the chanting in the whole body, the whole body, everything, sangha sampo like that. Every kui, whatever, hantu or whatever, they don't come to you. The people believe that they overdo the whole thing, overdo the whole thing. So just be careful, as we want to go into the path of mental development. Don't get stuck in these type of things. We use it as just to help us to bring forth our faith, the confident wisdom, so that we can able to go into higher mental development. Okay. Next question. All right. Next question is a bit not too difficult, but it's just a bit long. Yeah. Dear Bhante, what does footnote 51 in the Visuddhimagga mean? Does the ultra subtle sounds mean sound frequency that cannot be heard at the ear door, but only apprehendable by the mind conscious element? Okay. This is, you want to know the footnote 51. Okay. Let us go to the next, this one. This is the, okay. Let me move my to the side. All right. Now, here the footnote 51 is this. Okay. The faint sound itself as a sign is the sign of the faint sound. Okay. It has that as its object. What is meant? Of course, the faint sound have ceased to then, but the sign of the sound has been well apprehended, and so consciousness occur with the sign of fainter sound as its object. For as from the outset he ascertained with undistracted consciousness the sign of each sound as it ceases, eventually his consciousness occur in the end with the sign of ultra subtle sound too as its object. This is Visuddhi Magga Mahatika, I think so. It's the commentary for the Visuddhi Magga. Now, what is meant over here? Let us go up to the what I've highlighted over here. Now, here you read here at 184. Like what? Just as a gong is struck, at first gross sound occur, and consciousness occurs because the sign of the gross sound is well apprehended, well attended to, well observed. And when the gross sounds have ceased, then afterwards fainter sound occur and the consciousness occur because the sign of the faint sound is well apprehended and too well observed. And when the faint sound has ceased, then afterwards consciousness occur because it has the sign of the faint sound as its object. 51. Okay. Here is connected to something with the in-breath, out-breath. So too, at first, gross in-breath and out-breath occur, and the consciousness does not become distracted because the sign of the gross in-breath, out-breath is well apprehended, well attended to, well observed. And when the gross in-breath and out-breath have ceased, then afterwards the faint in-breath and out-breath occur. And the consciousness does not become distracted because the sign of the faint in-breath and out-breath is well apprehended, well attended to, well observed. And when the signs, and when the faint in-breath and out-breath have ceased, then afterwards consciousness does not become distracted because it has the sign of the faint in-breath and out-breath as its object. Yeah? Okay. Now, in the in-breath, out-breath, before we look into what is meant by the sound here, but you see the question is asking about the sound. But for many of you, because what is going on, you need to know a little bit of the background of what is being asked by that question. Now here, what it meant over here. So too, when you first develop in-breath, out-breath, for example, I'm trying to explain what is being meant over here. When you start with the in-breath, out-breath, everything of the in-breath, out-breath, sometimes you cannot able to notice, cannot able to see because sometimes the mind get distracted, thinking come in and so on. But if you keep on practicing it well, you develop it well, then you can able to follow the in-breath, out-breath without all the hindrances coming in. That means here, what is being meant over here, at first, the gross in-breath and out-breath occurs. The consciousness does not become distracted because the sign of the gross in-breath and out-breath is well apprehended. That means the sign here means the object of the gross in-breath, out-breath is well apprehended. That means you can able to notice the in-breath, out-breath very clearly without the mind get distracted into all kinds of hindrances. That is what it's meant. And now, if you keep on practicing further, then the gross in-breath, out-breath becomes, slowly it disappears. Then you can only see a very faint in-breath, out-breath, as if like you are not breathing at all. But it's still occurring, the faint in-breath, out-breath. In the beginning, this type of faint in-breath, out-breath, it's very difficult to see because in the beginning, your mindfulness is not powerful or continuous. So as it goes into a more continuous, more powerful mindfulness, the concentration follows it, the effort follows it, and then you can able to notice that the in-breath, out-breath becomes much more finer, much more subtle. When we say the faint in-breath, out-breath, during in the actual practice, the faint in breath out breath becomes clear to you already. Because of your mindfulness, things are magnified, become clear. The earlier gross in breath out breath, at that time you can see it very clearly. But when you begin to see the faint in breath out breath, that time it's not so easy for you to see that. But over time you keep on practice, and then the faint in breath out breath also become clear to you. As if like it's not faint anymore, but compared to your earlier in breath out breath, this is still, we call it faint. But when you're actually practicing it, it becomes clear to you. That means it's happening right in front of you already. Okay? So with that, when you're able to notice it, then it becomes very, very good, because it has going into a more deeper aspect of the meditation. And here also it says that when it is well attended, well observed, the faint in breath occur, the sign of the faint in breath is well apprehended, well attended to, well observed. Good. Now, after that it says that when the faint in breath out breath have ceased, then afterwards the conscious does not become distracted, because the sign of the faint in breath out breath as its object. Now here, when the faint in breath out breath cease, what happened is that later on the mental image, a mental image of a in breath out breath begins to occur. It begins to occur. But again, initially, that mental nimitta, this time, is not stabilized yet. You will keep on going back to the bodily type of a faint in breath out breath, of that in breath out breath. And the sign of the created by the mind is not clear yet. But nevertheless, you keep on practicing until the sign, the mental aspect of it becomes clear. And the breath, the body faint breath, it starts to disappear, it starts to cease, and it starts to disappear. And only the nimitta becomes clear to you. The mental nimitta becomes clear to you. And then you can able to stabilize it, you can able not affected by hindrances and so on. It takes a lot of practice from the starting until you can able to create the clear nimitta. A clear nimitta which is the a sign sometimes for some people is exactly the in-breath, out-breath itself, but it's created by the mind. The earlier one is the bodily process, it's a bodily formation. But right now, because it is much better, it's been created by the mind. So this is what is meant here. So now what it meant by going back to the example of the gong. When the gong is struck, at first the sound occur in the consciousness, because the sign of the gross sound is well apprehended, well attended to, well observed, and the sound have ceased. Afterwards, the faint sound occur, consciousness occur, because the sign of the faint sound is well apprehended, well attended to, well observed. Now here, the question is again this. We go back to the question. Does the ultra subtle sound mean that the sound frequency cannot be heard by the door but only apprehendable by mind conscious element? In a way, it is yes. This thing is yes, because for example, let's say about the gong one. Don't have to use the gong. Can you able, for example, can you able to remember or recollect the sound of your loved ones, the voice of your loved ones, or the voice of your husband, or the voice of your children, mentally we can able to create the sound. We can able to remember. That means when you remember, you create the sound. Yeah? When you can able to remember the sound, but you cannot able to come out from your vocal cord, right? You cannot come out from your voice, but you can able to remember that particular sound. Yeah? You can understand the sound. You can able to remember that particular sound. So the same thing is this. When you're able to remember the sound of your loved ones, it is like it's a nimitta. It's a nimitta that is happening in the mind. That is happening in the mind. But the person is not there. The person is not talking at all because it's not there. But it's been created by the mind. Right? It's simple. It's simple. This one is simple only. Yeah? We can able to remember the words of the voice of our loved ones or the voice of people and so on. We can able to remember. So too, it's what is meant here. When the faint sound disappear, you can still able to remember the sound, but you cannot create the sound through your vocal cord. Right? But you can remember that sound disappear, but you can still able to remember in your head, in your mind. So too the same thing. So when the gross sound, when it occurs, you hear it on the ear, and then even when the faint sound slowly, as it slowly disappears, you can still hear it. And then after that, when all the sound disappear, you can still hear mental ringing still inside the head. You can do it yourself, but sometimes every day every time we come in with this type of gong, then you see it slowly disappear until you can still able to remember it in your mind. So too the same thing. What is meant over here, when we go back to this one, the ultra subtle here is mean that you can able to remember it in the sound, in the mind. So here is more important. What is more important here is the in-breath, out-breath. If we are doing the in-breath, out-breath as a samatha object as it right now, then here, first of all, you take the gross in-breath, out-breath, and then later you practice, then further, then it becomes faint, it becomes subtle. When we say that it is subtle, when you are actually practicing it, it is clear to you because of your mindfulness. But here they use the word subtle because it needs to be compared with the earlier one, right? But when you actually practice, it's already clear to you at this moment of time. Then when the faint in-breath, out-breath begins to disappear, or the subtle in-breath, out-breath begin to disappear, and then here your mental image of that particular in-breath, out-breath becomes clear to you also. Just like the sound that is being stuck in our memory, on our head, So this is what is meant here. Now, this is for the samatha meditation. It also this same thing also occur for vipassana meditation also. Exactly the same thing, it's just the object is different only. Okay? Exactly the same thing, but the object is different. Now let us stop the sharing, and then we go on to with the next. Hey, where's this sharing? Yes. Okay. Hold on. I'll show you another one. Zoom. That's my screen share. Okay. Now, make it wider a little bit. Now, just now, not too far away, we talk about this, the faint sound. Just now we talk about it, the faint sound, and then we talk about here at like what the gong here. Here also we talk about it. Here we talk about the samatha aspect. Now, more also interestingly, is the vipassana aspect also. Where we go up a little bit. Now here at 180. Can you all see? It's also interesting. But in the case of insight, that means in the case of vipassana, the bodily formation occur at the time of not discerning is gross, and the discerning of the primary elements is it is by comparison subtle. By comparison, that is also gross in discerning the derived materially. That is also gross. That means that when you can able to define or discern the primary elements, then after that you can also define the derived materiality. What is derived materiality? For example, you can notice the sensation of the body a little bit more. Many things that if you know your Abhidhamma will be good now. Again, about 24 derived materiality, but we don't need to able to discern all of them. But anyway, first of all, you able to notice. No, first of all, you are not a meditator. First of all, you cannot even noticing the primary element, hardness, softness, warmness, coldness. You cannot do that. So when you're able to know it, then the primary elements becomes gross. As it becomes gross, then you're able to notice things much more deeper, then it becomes subtle. Then after that, that is also gross in discerning all materiality. That means you can able to discern all kinds of materiality in the terms of 28 altogether. Then after that, when you're able to discern those things, then discerning the immaterial. Immaterial here means the mind. So when you can able to notice the mind, then it becomes subtle already. And when you can able to discerning the mind and materiality, both of them, it becomes subtle. And that is also cross in discerning condition. That means that you begin to see the nature of how things are affecting another. Then after that, when you see the materiality with condition, it becomes subtle. And this is also cross. And in insight, it has a characteristic of impermanence. As its object, it is subtle. This is also cross in a weak insight, while it is strong insight, it is subtle. What it meant by this, although all these are just words, and then a lot of you don't able to understand what is going on. What it meant here, just make it things a bit more simple for you. Initially, when you begin to meditate, when you are a beginner of meditation, when you sit down, can you watch your rising, falling? You watch 2 or 3 times, you sleep already. You watch a little bit, everything disappears already. You cannot see what is going on. Okay? But because you keep on trying, you make an effort, then after that you can able to see the rising, falling, moving, hardness, softness, pressure. That means you begin to able to discern the primary elements, which is good. Compared to you with in the beginner of a meditator, you cannot see anything at all. Or when you are doing your walking meditation, initially you just right step, left, you're not able to see anything much. But if you keep on practicing a little bit, few more days, and you make an effort for it, you begin to notice the hardness. Actually the hardness, how is it like? And then you can able to notice the lifting, which is the wind element. How is the movement like? How is the pushing like? How is the stepping, the pressure, the hardness, the warmness when it touch down. When you are able to notice those things, then it becomes clear to you. But although here it says that it's subtle, but actually when you are actually noticing it, it is clear to you. Okay? So even though we use the word subtle here in the words here, don't think of it like when you meditate, everything become little, because subtle, use the word subtle, you got little, nothing for us to see. No, it's not like that. It's not like that. It meant that it is clear to you, but when it's compared to your earlier times, When you cannot able to meditate, those things are gross. Okay, and you keep on meditate further. As you keep on meditate further and further, you can able to see the rising, falling, pressure, hardness. You see so many sensation and so on. Then things become clearer. You can see how the rising, falling is not going in one way. Sometimes they go in 2 or 3 steps. Then you can able to define the materiality even more clearer. But in the sense that it is clearer compared to your earlier understanding of your rising falling. That this time the rising falling has stepped. Oh, it got 2 or 3 rising falling arises. Oh, my in breath also got 2 or 3 in out breath, as if like 2 or 3 steps is coming out, not just only one coming out. That means you're able to define it more clearer. Then later on, as you practice, then you can able to notice, hey, now I can notice the mind that pays attention to the body, the rising and falling, or the in-breath, out-breath. Initially, the mind is not so clear, but as you practice, oh, the mind is very clear right now. Now you can see the mind also clear, the body also clear. Now it becomes deeper compared to your first time when you meditate and so on. Those times you cannot see. And then as you go further, deeper and deeper, then you begin to notice arising, passing away, this thing, that thing, So as you keep on meditating, the characteristics of impermanence, characteristic of dukkha and everything becomes more clearer to you. This is what it meant over here in terms of vipassana. But in terms of samatha, it has a there are different way of mental development. But it follow a same principle. Things become from gross, becomes subtle and so on. Again here, just again, I want to emphasize, when I say the word subtle here, does not mean it's small and it's nothing for you to see. It is when you're actually practicing it, it is very clear to you. It is very clear to you at that moment of time. Okay? So, let us stop this one. Oh no. So here is the clarification. We clarify on the subtle sound. That means it's heard by the, here is the heard by the mind only. But I expand it in the sense of to understand what it meant by from the samatha way and also by the way of vipassana way. Okay? No more question already. That's it. So any question from this one? So far, there's nothing on the chat. If nothing, we can call it a night.